Let's face it, the original Game Boy isn't exactly known for its groundbreaking shmups. In fact, I can think of only a handful of blasters for the monochrome handheld. The earliest example of a Game Boy shooter is Solar Striker, made in 1989 by Nintendo. By this point, the NES had a wealth of shoot-'em-ups available for it, since many of the games made in the early 80s were shoot-'em-ups. And despite its simplistic presentation, it filled a hole that the Game Boy had in its early age. So what will you find in Solar Striker that you won't find in other games today? Well, nothing. This is a basic shooter in just about every aspect of its being. You've got your one ship, a rudimentary power-up system going from single shot to double shot to triple shot to laser shot, and a bunch of enemies each with their own patterns. And of course, at the end of the stage, there's the obligatory large-scale boss. What it does have, though, is great control, and, for the Game Boy, an easily visible high-contrast playfield. Due to technical limitations with the original Game Boy screen, it had to be black on white rather than white on black for the space sequences. But it works. There's also quite a bit of challenge in the later levels as well. You'll find that the bosses start spewing out a lot more red-hot death at you, starting at stage 4. The screen also gets flooded with bullets in stage 5. What I find particularly interesting about Solar Striker, though, is how there's very little flicker. As if that wasn't impressive enough, there's very little slowdown as well. So for the most part, it runs at a constant rate throughout the whole game. Considering the amount of slowdown I've seen in many 8-bit games on the NES as well, this is very surprising. Your ship is quite nimble as well, so your chances of evading large-scale waves of attacks is pretty high. So it's easy to see that, at the time, Solar Striker demonstrated that the Game Boy was a viable platform for shoot-'em-up type games, especially since it was made in 1989. As far as presentation goes, the most flashy aspect of Solar Striker is its box art. Even the title screen seems absolutely amateur by today's standards. But being made in 1989, that can be excused. By contrast, the in-game elements are actually really good. Each stage has a unique look and feel, and the enemies are well designed and easy to see on the tiny Game Boy screen. The music was scaled back a bit in order to accommodate sound effects, so with only 3 sound channels going to the music itself, it sounds a little flat. But some of the tunes are still kinda catchy regardless. And you know what? Despite how simple it is, it's actually really fun. So with that said, just how does Solar Striker stack up? Let's take a look. Solar Striker was the first shoot-'em-up on the Game Boy and the only dedicated shoot-'em-up made by Nintendo. In terms of control, it succeeds, with fairly tight control given its early age, and a decent length at 6 stages. The later levels get very challenging as well. The visuals are clean and clear, but the sound is a little flat with one missing sound channel when the music is playing. Unfortunately, even in 1989, the ingenuity factor is extremely low. This is a very by-the-book shooter. And even though it was Nintendo's first and only one, and even if it is fun, there's not much to go back to once you beat it. Thankfully, if you do want to get in on the Solar Striker action, this game is insanely affordable. At just $2 at auction, you too can experience the very first shooter on the Game Boy. But how long will you play it?